Namaskar, my name is Surinder Sharma. I am President of Power Saving Systems Inc. and actively involved in the Indo-Canadian community here in Toronto. And with me I have Dr. Ragini Sharma, and she's also very actively involved in some of the projects, and recently she is involved in one of the event happening on April 6th at the Noor Center, Noor Cultural Center rather, and there have been some dialogue going on between her and the management of Noor Cultural Center, and I would ask Ragini ji to throw some light because she has been in communication and correspondence with them, and they are bringing two guests, I understand, as speakers to talk about the situation in India between Dalits and Muslims and the other current government. So could you throw some light what has happened?
First of all, I want to say thank you so much, Surinder ji. You're such a community leader, and it's so wonderful to have this dialogue together on this issue that affects the diaspora as well as how we represent India in Canada.
Absolutely.
Right. So the concern about this event at Noor Cultural Center is that they have invited a speaker, an academia. It's an academic event.
Sure.
One is a professor and the other is a doctoral student. And the topic that they have chosen is the current political situation in India. And within that topic, they have chosen to speak about the lynching of Dalits and Muslims in India.
Yeah, I could see in the poster also.
They have actually, we should show that poster.
Very boldly they have shown all that, which is a little bit, when I received it, looked
very alarming.
Looked very objectionable the way it is done. The situation is not really the way they are trying to present it. I think they are trying to catch the media attention, or maybe trying to please a certain section of the community here.
We don't know what their intentions are. And Noor Cultural Center does focus on social justice and human rights issues, and I'm sure they're well intentioned. I wrote a letter to Samira Khanji, who's the CEO. And in the spirit of interfaith harmony, in the spirit of, creating cordiality in our relationships here, because after all, we are living here.
Yes.
You don't discriminate against Dalits or Muslims in your companies that you run.
Oh, absolutely
I have
not.
friends, and we have,
absolutely not.
We don't. So why do we need to bring these red herring, these red flags, to label our community in this way? I don't think anybody in the Indian diaspora here does not acknowledge that we have issues in India. But we cannot be defined by the worst that we have in India. And that's our complaint, is a request to present a balanced view. So our complaint is that the presenters are focusing on the lowest denomination that they could find to define us. India is a very rich and varied, and it's the world's largest democracy. It's a pluralistic society that values its minorities.
And one more thing what I feel is, it is not that due to the current change of the political scenario, the current government which has come in, it is all happening. I think now the media has suddenly woken up, and things can be covered in the electronic media so fast. Even a minor incident happens anywhere in India, it's covered and blown over. And in previous years, these things were not known if some stray incidents happen around the country. And it should not be. And looking at the total percentage of population in India, I think it's comparatively the law and order is really extremely good, and the people are getting through the reservations. All the backward communities are being uplifted, and they're getting jobs. Even the President of India is a Dalit right now.
Yeah, and it's not the first one.
It's not the first one.
I think you raised a very important point, which is the role of social media.
Social media.
And this instant communication. As you know, many of these stories about so-called lynching were false.
Yes.
And even if there were a few cases, like you mentioned, there are minuscule number of cases, and they are being followed through the court. We have a judicial system, we have a legal system, we have a police system that is taking care of these. So the message that this event sort of gives is that somehow there's this lawlessness and rampant misuse and ill treatment of our minorities, which is a very false narrative, which we are challenging.
And the Noor Cultural Center is basically an Islamic center, I think.
It is a cultural center, but it is they do have Islamic studies. It is a Muslim organization, and they have, they teach about Islam to children, and they have programs. And they talk about, having an interest in social change and talking about advocacy for change.
And what I understand during your discussions or communication with them, they mentioned that they are not touching Hinduism. But Dalits are part of the Hindus. How can they say that they are not touching Hindus?
This is like this is laughable. Because in my email to said, well, we don't mention Hinduism. I'm like, so who is lynching the Muslims and the Dalits? I mean, to pretend that this is not an attack on Hindus is laughable. Like we're not so. And the main point is that the person that they've invited, Professor Jangam, he has a history. If anybody's interested, they can look him up. He's at Carleton, and all his work extremely negative towards Hinduism. He talks about Hinduism being responsible for this Dalit situation, but he doesn't acknowledge that there is no Hindu scripture that says anything about Dalit. That word is a modern concept. We have the Varna system and the Jati system, which were based on innate tendencies, interests, and when it was conceived, it was a fluid system. Right. Now, not to acknowledge that over time it was corrupted. So what my point is that the Dalits issues, and it's horrible, we cannot deny the suffering of the Dalit people, is a social issue. It's not based on religious teachings of Hindus. Since many years, hundreds of years, there have been reformers, and they have been addressing this issue. And even today, there is not a single spiritual guru or leader that is saying this is not that we should not get rid of this. I mean, in temples, Dalits are allowed, the pujaris are allowed, in every possible, the government, the spiritual organizations. There is a social change happening. There's a commitment in the country.
So that means, in your opinion, India is determined to uplift them.
Absolutely.
And even the Constitution of India was written by a Dalit.
Dr. Ambedkar, and he was supported, his mentor was a Brahmin. So, to say that somehow that this...
But then if you really see the history 1,000 years before India's Independence Day, it was not governed by Brahmins or Kshatriyas or something. They were not the rulers. Rulers have been either British or they were Muslims. So they never really cared to bring the society up or lift them or give them some facilities.
And compared to the 1,000 years of oppression of the Dalit community, the last 70 years is incredible progress.
And you see
for the
look at the rural India,
Yes.
which there was no electrification at all, and there were no roads, nothing, and 80% of the population lived in the villages in India.
Yes.
And their condition, not only the lower caste, even any people, I mean, their living standard was comparatively very low. But
Yes.
now it's suddenly in the last few years, there has been so much development.
Yes.
And what do you think in the last, the present government, how they have
Incredible.
fared in building the infrastructure?
Incredible. The Prime Minister himself is from the lower background. And, the amount of work that's happening for upliftment of all communities, Muslims, Dalits, Christians, there is no when you build a road, it's not built for one community, it's for everybody. I think it's really, really important for Hindus particularly to become educated on how to speak about this issue, because I think there is so much shame and guilt about this issue in us from our past, and we are afraid to speak about it.
Yeah, you rightly said that whatever infrastructure, whether it's trains, whether it is bridges, whether it's aerospace or satellites or anything.
Monetary changes, the mudra system,
the bank, the bank accounts being opened for the poor people. So benefit is going, filtering down to the poorest of the poor.
In fact, it's targeting more to the poorer group because they are the ones who are disadvantaged. So all the mudra loans, and in particular, if anybody is interested, they can go on the Minority Affairs website of the Government of India. I mean, I want to ask the diaspora Indians to think about which country in the world gives subsidy to cover housing and everything, travel to Muslims to go up and perform Hajj. Right? 180,000. The budget is like 300 million. I mean, and in India, the Muslims, they can follow the Shariat for their personal law. They are allowed to pray without any interference. The Government of India does not interfere in the religious affairs of the Muslims and the Christians, but it interferes severely in the Hindu. They have taken over the Hindu temples. Is there any mosque or church being taken over by the government? No. So the reality is, in fact, that the Hindu religion is severely criticized and controlled by the government. We are taxed. The church and the mosques are not taxed. The Hindu temples are taxed. They have been taken over by the government. And the money that is put into the hundis, it does not go to opening Vedic pathshalas. The Hindu community is not allowed to use the money that they are offering into the temples for the building of hospitals. We're always said, well, where is the hospitals being built by the Hindus? Well, you're taking away all the money, right? So Hindus, we would like our temples to be freed, so we can then build the hospitals, create the Vedic, institutions, so that Hindus can be able to preserve their language, their culture, their tradition, dance, music, art. You see, we have a beautiful, colorful religion, which, the Vedas have music, art, dance, mathematics, science, Ayurveda. We have all the sciences included in our religion. So it's a fantastic treasure. And I think people will be amazed to know that because India is a secular country, the Indian universities are not allowed to do research on Hinduism.
I see.
So there are no, like in Delhi universities or the major IITs, you cannot include the knowledge of the ancient knowledge on metallurgy. The zinc was discovered in India. We had, urban design, we had architecture, we had metallurgy, but those cannot be included. So there is, because of the idea of secularity, there is no research allowed on to be included. So this is actually reverse discrimination. There is, some people call India, an apartheid, another form of apartheid, You know how they had South Africa, they had apartheid, where a certain group had no rights. In some ways, actually, you know, India is when you look at the Hindus, it's an apartheid. You know, there is severe control. And if you look at the media, it's very anti-India, anti-Hindu, and everything is targeted towards our religion, our culture. You know, who can go? But the beauty of our religion, Hinduism, is that it is not a one-book religion.
Yes.
You know, it's each person responsible for their following their own dharma. We have this idea
it's more
of
like a
Swadharma.
The umbrella is a Sanatan Dharma.
Sanatan Dharma.
Under which there are all the segments, you can call it.
Sanatan Dharma is like an open architecture. Open architecture that has nurtured many new religions to come up. Sikhism, Buddhism, you know.
No, even some of the spiritual masters and gurus who have come recently, they have formed their own organizations, and they're doing excellent work, and they're teaching good values, and
it's spread all over the world.
There are followers of Shirdi Sai Baba, Satya Sai Baba. They're doing excellent work. Like you asked about the hospitals, they're built.
And Sri Ravi Shankar is doing humanitarian work all over the world and in India. You know,
Baba Ramdev is doing so much work.
Amazing. So it is our Hindu leadership that is showing the way, and there is no discrimination at all. I mean, the Hindu leadership, spiritual leadership, is doing an amazing job.
Absolutely.
And you know, they do not resist reform. The Abrahamic religions, they take their book literally. You cannot challenge it.
Yes.
Hinduism is a living tradition.
Great.
Every generation is open to reinterpreting it to the modern times. So the Hindu leadership, especially the religious, you must have seen at the Kumbh Mela. The transvestites were included in the opening ceremony.
Beautiful.
Like, which religion has this openness. And ability to adapt to the needs of the people? So, you know, we should not feel inferior to other.
Actually, the Kumbh Mela was an excellent
it has now been declared as World Heritage. And, you know, my worry on that one side is that, you know, somehow it's going to become as if a spiritual event rather than a religious event. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Coming back, I mean, the scenario.
To this event that we're
scenario in India is definitely improving.
Very positive.
Things are looking very bright.
Yes.
Everything. And coming back to the Indo-Canadian community here, when this kind of situations happen, I think there doesn't seem to be
it's a disconnect.
There's not complete unity among the Indo-Canadian community or the awareness. I think when we come here, people who migrate first 5-7 years, 10 years, they're so busy educating their children and looking after the house. They really don't take care of as a community as such.
Well, we're focused on the doctors and engineers and lawyers. Per capita, I think we have the most, but I think you raise a serious...
your daughter is a doctor, my son is also a doctor. So
I think it's a serious concern that Hindus are not participating as much in the civic society. We don't have well represented in a city. There's not a single Hindu in the city council.
Even in the cabinet, there's no Hindu. In Trudeau's cabinet, there's no Hindu.
I think so. We need to encourage our young people to take it up and our role as elders.
I think our next generation has to be a little bit more proactive in the community. And
events such as this are very dangerous because they send out this message.
Wrong signals.
Signal that when you speak of India, you should focus on caste. Caste cannot define our civilization.
Absolutely.
We will challenge those who want to make caste as the main narrative when you discuss India. India is a vibrant democracy. It has civilization impact all over the world. Our yoga, meditation, yoga, psychology. Patanjali was the first psychologist in the world. And for 1,000 years, the Westerners have been reading up our Sanskrit texts
Yes.
and benefiting. And if you read literature like poetry and psychology, and now you have mind sciences, they're all based on Hindu religion. But because of the caste baggage,
Yes.
they have separated it
Yes.
into what we can call Western universalism. They want to appropriate all the best that Hinduism has to offer, appropriate it into Western culture,
Yeah.
and this way. And you know, I want to mention this author. His name is Rajiv Malhotra. There's a book
Sure.
called Breaking India.
India.
For anybody who is interested in really understanding what this Dalit movement is, they should read this book.
Sure, sure.
Because basically it's driven by the evangelical crusade, which is for conversion. So they have come up with all this to show to a huge majority of Hindus who are Dalits that you know, this is not something they should follow. They should leave and convert. So this is driven by that. It's a powerful book and describes in detail the names and the people, the main characters that have,
Sure.
and the organizations.
Sure.
I mean, if you go to the website called joshua.net,
Sure.
this website is an evangelical website, and it has details on every village in India.
I see.
It describes who lives in these villages, and how they can go there, and what they would expect, and how to sell Christianity to them.
Oh.
So we Hindus have no idea the gigantic force that is being used. I mean, they left India, but they're going to, I mean, the conversion effort is billions of dollars.
I see.
If you, I mean, we have no idea. Can you imagine every village in India is described on, you can just go there and look it up and invite people to go and do the conversion. I mean, how Hindus are sitting ducks. Do you know what I mean? And whereas our religion is willing to give meditation, yoga freely, with no tags to convert.
Sure, sure. Okay.
We are only interested in spreading.
That is the scenario there. Now, in one sentence, what is the message to the Indo-Canadians here? I think we have to wake up and unite.
Wake up and unite and fight back.
Yes.
Fight back.
And
don't be afraid
and participate
to speak up.
in the Canadian process.
Yeah.
Get involved in
Yes.
the political process. Get involved in the community.
Yes.
Come out and do some social service.
Yeah.
And show your presence in such
Yes.
events.
And we are going to go to the event and respectfully try to participate if they give us an opportunity to ask important questions. And we're not opposed to having events like this or discussing human rights or whatever, but we are asking for a balanced approach, telling both sides of the stories. We don't want this one-sided story that just is hate-mongering and spreading hatred for India and for Hindus. This is just not appropriate.
Thank you very much.
Canadian society.
Thank you very much for coming to the studios, and
thank you.
We look forward to seeing a lot of participation in this event.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the spirit of India.
Keep up the spirit. Yes.
Jai Bharat.
Jai Bharat.